Hey everybody, Nathaniel Schweinberg here for aetuts.com, here to show you today how to format your triple-wide content. Now, a question you're probably asking is, what in the world is triple-wide content? And if you're watching this, you may or may not know, so let me actually show you what it is. We're going to jump over here to Google Chrome, which is my browser of choice, and this video is an example of triple-wide content. It's made by a company called Thrive, a couple friends of mine who make triple-wide content and sell it. Now, what triple-wide content is that it's basically 3 videos all merged into one just really wide video that's triple the width of a normal video. And so this one, for example, is 1920 by 480. So there's pretty much 3 640 by 480 videos that are just kind of set next to each other, but are actually formatted into one larger video. Now, a question you may be asking yourself also is, like, who actually uses this? Now, one thing that's kind of growing in the church actually is using triple-wide content, and so the churches will have multiple screens, or for example here they'll have entire spaces, or they'll use the entire wall space in order to project onto. So for example, let's look at this one, because this one's really cool. He's using the guy who does this. His name is Cameron Ware, and he'll project on the entire wall. And so basically this is what would appear to be 3 videos, but it's just one seamless video that's played on the walls in the environment. Now, what this also is called is environmental projection. And environmental projection is just projecting images onto buildings or walls or any sort of environment that you can come up with. And so this is a good example of environmental projection. Projecting onto this old church building, or let's see, here. Just some really cool stuff, So this also is another example of triple-wide content. So close that out. Now, let's jump actually back into After Effects and get started. So what you want to do is that you go to File, New, Composition, New Composition, and we're going to have our resolution be 1920 by 480. Now what you want to do real quick is just lock your aspect ratio, and I want to just show you something. So if you think about different resolutions, is think of 640 by 480, or 800 by 600, or 1280 by 720, or any of that. That's basically, you can use any of those to make triple wide. So this one, for example, is 1920 by 480. If we want to throw in 600 in there, we can have a 3 800 by 600 videos. Or if we want to throw in 720, we have 3 1280 by 720. Or let's think, or 1080, 4320 by 1080. Now, one thing you want to take in consideration is that, yes, always more pixels the better. It'll look better. But the issue is that the more you have, the more it'll tax your computer. And so you'll want to make sure that if you're actually going to do live events, that you want to have a Mac Pro, or a really well spec'd out MacBook Pro, or if you build your own PCs, like a kick-butt awesome PCs. But for our purposes, we're just going to do 1920 by 480. You also want your pixel aspect ratio to be square pixels, and your frame rate to be 60 frames per second. We're going to actually explain that a little bit later, but keep that in the back of your head. We'll just have our duration be 2 seconds and hit OK. So now we have our first triple wide composition. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Layer, New, Solid, make comp size, and hit OK. And then we're just going to drag fractal noise on here. And if you don't know what fractal noise is, it's an effect, noise and grain, fractal noise. Is that, and there we go. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a really quick and dirty loop, because I want to show you more about the render settings and the actual resolution than anything else. So we're going to do a quick loop and hit keyframe there, 0, keyframe here, 3, hit OK, and twirl down evolution options and hit cycle evolution. And just to make sure we don't get a frame stutter, I'm going to hit U just to show all keyframes, and drag this last keyframe 1 frame over, because that will make sure that there is no frame stutter. And we'll do a quick run preview. And here we see we have a nice looping fractal noise. Now let's actually jump into the explanation of why we want to have it be 60 frames per second. So if you're actually going to be using this, you'll probably want to get a program called Pro Video Player, which is a really cool program that allows you to adjust videos on the fly. So, for example, let's start playing this one video here. Oops. play that, and I can, mess with the saturation on the fly. I can mess with the brightness on the fly. I can mess with the contrast on the fly. I can mess with the speed. I can slow it way down, or I can speed it way up, all on the fly. So it's a really cool video mixer. You also can play with the hue, mess around like that. So we'll go to black. And if you're actually wondering where you can get this from, you can go to renewedvision.com/pvp.php, and it'll take you to the Pro Video Player site. Renewed Vision is the creator of ProPresenter also, which is a presentation software that kicks the pants off of PowerPoint or any other presentation software. It's extremely customizable and really, really easy to use, and really, really highly recommended. So go ahead and download, or really buy, but download Pro Video Player, and it'll allow you to have a trial version and it'll have a watermark on it, as you can see right there. I'm going to show you this example right here. So I exported a few different videos, and one being at 30 frames per second and another at 60. So let's play this one video at 30 frames per second. So I have the spinning star, and it's going crazy. Now what I actually want to do is I'm going to slow this down to half speed. And you can see that, it's going, but it's not quite very smooth. I'm going to actually slow it down even more, and you can see it's bumping along. It's not going very fast at all, because what it's doing is that it's, instead of playing at 30 frames per second at the native frames per second, it's actually playing at, probably more like 10 or 8 frames per second. So let's actually jump to the 60 frame per second video. Now automatically you can see it looks a lot different because it's playing at 60 frames per second. Now we're going to jump down to half speed. Now the cool thing about this is that even though it's only playing at half the original speed, it's actually playing at 30 frames per second, because half of the original frame rate is 60 frames per second. And so you can slow it down anywhere between 1 times and half time, and still have a pretty good looking video because it's playing more than 30 frames a second. And we'd even drag this down to a quarter time and not look that bad, which is pretty cool. And just to show you, contrast the two, this is at 60 frames per second, and this is at 30 frames per second. 60, 30. So hopefully now you're kind of convinced as to why you should do it at 60 frames per second for any of your content, not just Triplewide. So if you're, for example, if you're a church and you play stuff on Sunday morning and you're mixing live video on the fly, you probably want to have your source footage be at 60 frames per second instead of 30 or 24, just in case you want to slow it down. Okay, all that being said, that's why you should do it at 60 frames per second. Now let's jump back to the After Effects, and we're going to add this to the render queue. We go to Composition, Add to Render Queue, and we have our video in the render queue. Now, the next step is that we already have a resolution, we have a frame rate. The next important part is the encoder that you use. Now by default right now it's Photo JPEG at 90%, but we do not want to use this for live video. Why? The reason why we don't want to do that is because Photo JPEG is just not very, it does not, it doesn't compress super well. Now, okay, before you get your panties in a bunch, it does do extremely good job, at 85 and above. But you're still going to get some kind of large file sizes, and it doesn't play well with ProPresenter or Pro Video Player. And so the encoder of choice actually is H.264. Now, a lot of people say that After Effects doesn't render out H.264 well, and I agree. But I just want to show you, for example, what to do. So, export it as lossless, and we're actually going to go into QuickTime, and we're going to show you the settings from QuickTime. Okay, so we have our video, and it's just been rendered out of After Effects. I'm going to open it up in QuickTime 7. And real quick, just shout out, if you guys are using OS X and you haven't heard of Total Finder, you just did, and you need to go download it now. What Total Finder does is it allows you to have tabs in Finder, and it's pretty stinking cool. But now that I'm done with that shameless plug, okay, so let's open up our Triplewide loop. Open with, come on, open with QuickTime Player 7. Okay, so we have our Triplewide loop, and it's actually kind of too big for the screen, and we're going to go to, just to see if we can shrink this down, half size. Okay, there we go. So here's our loop, and we want to export it. So we're going to go to File, Export, move it to QuickTime Movie, and Triplewide Loop, H.264. Now we're going to go to Options, because here's where it gets fun. So Settings, Compression Type, H.264, frame rate at current, it would be 60, but we'll just leave it current, and we want to key all frames. Now that's the other big part, is that we want to key every single frame. The reason why we want to do that is because H.264 does a great job compressing stuff, but the issue is that you're going to get some blocks and kind of ickiness all over the video. I don't know if I have a better word, but it's going to kind of look a little crappy. And so we want to key every single frame. So that way, with the example before, we want every single frame to look amazing when either at normal speed or even when we slow it down to halftime or even lower. And so we're going to key every single frame and have our quality be at high, best quality, and hit OK. Now the other issue is that, jump back in here, with keying every frame, your file size is going to be huge. So for example, a normal video, actually let's open up Finder and I'll show you one. Whoops. What in the world is going on? The computer's freaking out. Cancel. What? Goodness, I'm sorry about that. That took, my computer just freaked out. And so, for an example, we're actually going to go over here to one of my old, a previous project that I worked on, and go to here, and we can see this is only a 20-second clip. It's about to open up, and it's 20 megabytes. That this is at 60 frames per second, H.264, with every frame keyed. And so, if I wanted to, I could slow this down to halftime and still be playing at 30 frames per second, and still have a pretty darn good image. But the issue, so let's open up this 2.5 minute video. It's almost 600 megabytes with every frame keyed, versus if you hit auto, it's only 66. And so you can notice there's going to be a significant size increase. So I can imagine these 20-second clips would be probably about a megabyte, maybe a little bit more if we're lucky. And also look here, this total bit rate is a lot bigger because it's pushing a lot more data. And so that's why I said earlier, if you'll be doing this, especially with Triplewide content, you're going to need to make sure that you have a pretty strong computer that's able to handle the amount of data it's going to be pushing. Okay, so that's that. And let's go back to options and settings. I have to redo this all again because QuickTime crashed. Settings, H.264, current frames per second, all, every key's framed, quality at high, best in quality. Hit OK. Go to size, custom. Already know 1920 by 480, that's what it is, and hit OK. Don't need that, and hit OK, hit save, and we have ourselves a Triplewide loop with all the correct settings. And we're going to, just to go over it again, so when you're creating a Triplewide loop, what you want to do is that you want to have a loop that is at 1920 by 480, or 2400 by 600 at 60 frames per second, using the H.264 encoder with every single frame keyed, and probably have the encoder quality bit high. Don't want it at best because that'll just be huge. And I think that'll be it. So I highly encourage you guys, if you're curious, to go check out renewedvision.com and check out their products, Pro Presenter and Pro Video Player. Also go do my buddies a favor at Thrive and read their blog. A lot of the stuff that I find out about this is from their blog, The Salvation of H.264. They really explained it extremely well. And you go to thr-ve.com and also check out worshipvj.com, who explained why you should be using H.264 in live events. So that is... oh, and I've got one more tip for you guys. I forgot about this while I was recording. Let's say you actually have the original project files of something that you made that you want to repurpose for Triplewide content. as long as you have that original project file, it's actually pretty darn simple. So all you have to do is go to Composition, Composition Settings, and change the dimensions of your composition. So we're going to change it to 1920 by 480 and hit OK. And you'll see that the composition now is the size of Triplewide content. But also immediately you see that, well, okay, all it is just to change the composition size, but all of my original layers are still the size of the composition before. Well, it's a really, really simple fix. All I have to do is go back to the layers and go to Layer, Solid Settings, and hit Make Comp Size. And just do that for all of the layers that use solids. And, I mean, that's it. So just keep doing this, Solid Settings, Make Comp Size, Layer, Solid Settings, Make Comp Size, and then we now have a Triplewide loop in probably less than 15 seconds or 20 seconds or give or take. So I hope this is useful to you guys. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Go ahead and check out my website at ftcmedia.com and go check it out. Have some fun with it, and hope you guys take care. Bye-bye.